Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Comox Valley Regional District regular board meeting of Tuesday, April 26th to order. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation, and has become the practice. We are educating ourselves on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action. And so today we are reading Action 2 that has to do with child welfare. We call upon the federal government in collaboration with the provinces and territories to prepare and publish annual reports on the number of Aboriginal children, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis who are in care compared with non-Aboriginal children, as well as the reasons for apprehension, the total spending on preventative and care services by child welfare agencies, and the effectiveness of various interventions. And with that, we move to B, which is our in-camera meeting.
Move it. Second.
That's Grieve and Grant. Thank you. And we will be moving in camera following the regular board meeting according to Community Charter 91A and 91E. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Next, we have adoption of minutes
Move adoption.
from April 12th. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. And we have business arising, the January 11th board in-camera minutes. Thank you. And it's a summary report regarding the revised license of occupation. And it's just for receipt. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you. And we're on to reports. We have the Comox Valley Transit Management and Advisory Committee minutes from March 31st. Grieve and Hamir, thank you. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Oh, Director Swift.
I just wanted to call attention on page 3 of the report. I think there's a typing mistake regarding the year. It says 2002. I think it should be 2022.
Great. Thanks for pointing that out. And we are on to the Electoral Area Service Committee minutes from April 11th.
Second.
Grant and Grieve, thank you. And all in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. And there are some recommendations coming out of ESIC. Grieve and Arbor, move recommendation 1, which is a development variance permit for Jetland Terrace. It's a vote of the areas. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's unanimous.
Second.
Grant and Moran, thank you. And this is a development variance permit for Quenville Road. Is there any further discussion? It's vote of the areas. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And we're on to recommendation 3.
Move 3.
Cole Hamilton and Grant, thank you. And it is a development variance permit for the Island Highway North. And again, above the areas, all in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Move 4. Second.
Grant and Moran, thank you. And this is for form and character development permits on Island Highway North. Any further discussion? A vote of the areas, all in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Move 5. Second.
Grant and Cole Hamilton, thank you. And recommendation 5 is an agency referral for Piercy Road. And a vote of the areas, all in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay. Recommendation 6.
Move 6. Second.
Grant and Grieve, thank you. And this is for an agricultural land reserve non-farm use application. Any further discussion? Vote of the areas, all in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. On to recommendation 7.
Move 7.
Grant and Moran, thank you. And this is regarding land strata developments, Arden, England Road, Greaves Crescent. Oh, Director Arbor, go ahead.
Yeah, it might be good to bring that one to the awareness of the board. If I can ask staff to just comment, this is to ensure that inconsistent with the ASC policy that all water connections be serviced by a water meter. That future ones in this particular strata are as well, but does that leave any that are not, would be the question that might be of interest to the board.
Thank you. To staff.
Thank you for the question, and Mark Rutten, our General Manager of Engineering Services, will try to provide an answer to that.
Yes, thank you through the CAO and through the chair. So yeah, there's a long history to this particular recommendation. So this recommendation, as noted here, is rescinding a very old recommendation that was passed by EASC. So just as a little bit of background for the board, when we, way back in 2011, when we were implementing a rural area water metering project, so we were installing universal meters across all rural water areas. And we got feedback from some of the stratas, and there's not that many in the rural areas, but there are some strata developments. And feedback from them was, this will make it difficult for us to meter, to measure the water flow to individual units and be able to bill them, to split our strata bill amongst those units. So we thought, well, let's implement some policy so that in the future, each unit has its own meter. And then the strata corporation could divide the bill based on the amount of water that was used. So we thought that was a good idea at the time, but in fact, not all stratas want that ability. So just to be clear, all stratas are metered at the property line and they pay for water based on metered volume. And then it's up to the strata corporation to distribute the water amongst the property owners that live there, or the unit holders. And they can either do that by putting meters in and dividing the water up per consumption, or they can do it in some other way, whatever they choose. So we had thought each unit could have its own meter. We had tried to implement some policy, but in the end, it's not really supported by all stratas. And then another issue with this particular recommendation was that a development permit is really not the right tool to implement something like this. So that's probably the larger issue. And so we're rescinding this after it lived on the management report for a very long time and just leaving things as is. But be assured that all stratas are metered, at least at the property line. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for that background. Any further discussion? Okay. Again, it's a vote of the areas. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Move on to recommendation 8.
Second.
Grant and Grieve. Thank you. And this is regarding our financial plan for 2022 and 2026. Any further discussion? Dr. Hamir, go ahead.
Thank you. Just an explanation to the board members. This feasibility study for a potential water servicing to residents in Area B in the Radford and Curtis Road, Andrew Road area was brought to me by residents. We held some meetings over Christmas time and into January. And with the support of staff, it looks like there may be enough, well, this is what the feasibility study will determine if there's enough support for these residents who are looking for potentially connecting to a water service due to potential impacts of climate change on their wells. So just a bit of a background on how this came forward.
Great, thanks for that. Any further discussion? Okay, this is a vote of the full board. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We're on to item 3, which is Comox Valley Sewage Commission.
Second.
Thanks, Hillian and Grant. The minutes from April 12th. It's a vote of the full board. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried.
Move forward. Second.
And 4 is the water committee minutes from April 12th. Grieve and, sorry, I forgot the second. Cole Hamilton, thank you. And a vote of full board, all in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. We're on to item 5, which is Comox Valley Tourism Service Agreements for Comox and Cumberland. Gillian and Grant, thank you. And I'll pass it to staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm pleased to introduce Lisa Kilpatrick, our Economic Recovery and Community Resilience Coordinator, to introduce this report. Lisa.
Okay, thank you. Through the CAO to the chair. So what you have here are the agreements that are a result of the recommendations that came forward to you back in February for the change in the service function 550. So these agreements reflect the new Comox Valley Tourism Service. And we have 2 agreements in front of you today, both of which we did have legal counsel on. One is for the agreement with Cumberland, and that agreement is for 1 year, and that is so that they can participate as a recipient of the tourism services that TVI is delivering. The second is the agreement with Comox. So this is a bit of a 2-part agreement. One, it satisfies their exit requirements from function 550. And then it also allows them to continue to receive services as well from the service as a participant. So that contract is over 5 years. And it also addresses the issues around the visitor center, if that asset is disposed of, or if we receive revenue through leasing, as well as their contribution to the outstanding debt for that facility. So both of these agreements have been reviewed by the respective municipalities, and so they're in front of you today.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Any further comments? Oh, Director Arbor, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the report and the work. My observation is obviously 2 very different agreements with Cumberland, with the potential to explore joining the service, and then realizing that it will be under a new council after the election, that they will have that consideration. I was wondering in regards to Comox, if it's intentional that basically it skips a term for the next election. It goes to the election after for when contract renewal with a 5-year window. So if the new Comox Council decided to join the service, would there be opportunity for the CVRD board and the town of Comox to consider that prior to expiry or renewal of the contract?
So I think that's interesting, the connection with the election. The reason why that it's a 5-year term is tied to the repayment of the debt and the mortgage. So as part of the exit agreement, they were to continue with full requisition for 2022. And then once we get confirmation and approval of the new bylaw, then that will be the service withdrawal. And so they will begin to participate as a fee for service as of 2023.
Go ahead.
So my question is nothing precludes, if they decided in year 1 to follow a path like Cumberland to join the service, they could always do that and pursue that route, right?
I'll pass that over to CAO to answer.
Yeah, I think the door is open, certainly, and this is an agreement that would be between the CVRD and the town of Comox. Should both parties want to adjust that agreement or to effect a change whereby the town of Comox does come back into the service, that would be a process that we could undertake.
Thank you. Next, we have Director Morin.
Great, thank you, Chair. I know this is a little bit off topic, but I just wanted to say that been really happy to see the work of Tourism Vancouver Island, and recently they got quite a bit of press around some of their work with social enterprise, and I just wanted to read something quickly that they're going to receive the Responsible Tourism Institute's biosphere certification, which aligns with 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the UN in areas that include climate change, environment, social economy, and culture. And I just really am loving seeing the direction around sustainability and responsible tourism, destination tourism. Thanks.
Thank you. And next we have Director Cole Hamilton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thanks for Director Moore. And it's really encouraging to hear that that's the direction that TVI is moving in. I had a question about the Comox, the contract in clause 1. It just talks about what happens if the visitor center is sold. It just said that they'll receive a share in proportion to the respective contributions. Is there a formula that lies behind that that's any more detailed than that? I mean, I do see that there's a dispute resolution clause in there, which I think is great to have, but I was wondering if there was any greater detail to the formula that had been agreed, because it's often better to agree these things in advance if possible.
Thanks to staff.
So that is a great point, and something certainly that staff batted around, and as well at the Service Review Committee. The recommendation that came forward from the Service Review Committee indicated that the participants at that time would need to come together and have that conversation. And at that point, it would be dependent on if there were, for example, unexpected capital expenditures that came up, and that needed to be taken into account. So at this point, we didn't feel that with the Service Review Committee that there was an ability to set a formula, but rather have it stated that it would be a negotiation with all the participants.
Thank you. Yeah, and the contract did go to Cumberland Council, and it was unanimously supported. TVI has been really great about bringing Cumberland back into the fold and representing our interests on a regional level. And we, of course, have a lot of tourism, particularly mountain biking tourism in Cumberland. And the wishes of council are not necessarily to increase it at certain times. And I think TVI understood that. They talked about how to basically, send tourists to different parts of the island at different times and try and share that resource, basically. And that was very appealing to Cumberland Council. And so that's part of why it was unanimously supported. There are still a few things that we would like to work out sort of over the trial year. One of those things has to do with the hotel tax, which is not a hotel tax for Cumberland, but would hopefully be an Airbnb tax, and how those funds could be used. So those are one of the things that are still a bit of a question mark for our council, but still very much supported, and that's reflected today. Any further discussion? Director Arbour, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the conversations that didn't quite get concluded around the MRDT going regional and all that stuff. So as of June 1st, I guess Hornby has its own MRDT collection. So all Airbnbs are being collected. So if they're sharing, that needs to happen on that. But as to what expectation should we have around the MRDT consideration going forward? That might be a question to staff, if there's going to be a process next year, or otherwise, if there's a timeline.
Sure. In the 5-year financial plan, we did project to have an exploration of a regional MRDT in 2023, and we have budgeted for that planning process.
Great, thanks so much. Okay, I don't see any further lights. So this is a vote of the areas and Courtney and Comox just on receipt. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried, and there is a recommendation. Amir and Grant, thank you. And that is in accordance with recommendations from the service review. The Comox Valley Economic Development Service, which is function 550, endorsed the Comox Valley Tourism Service Agreements for the town of Comox. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried unanimously. We're on to recommendation 2, moved by Moran, seconded by Grant. And again, this is the contract that is between the regional district and the Village of Cumberland for tourism services. Any further discussion? And again, it's a vote of the areas and Courtney Comox. All in favor? Anyone opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Yay. Thanks. So we're on to bylaws and resolutions for adoption. And it's bylaw number 699, which is the Comox Valley Regional District 2021-2025 Financial Plan and Capital Expenditure Program Bylaw 6242. So Grant and Hamir have moved for adoption. And it's a vote of the full board. All in favor? Anyone opposed? And that is carried. And that brings us to our in-camera portion. Thanks so much.